Hey everyone, I'm makeup artist Daniel Martin, Global Director of Artistry and Education at Tatcha. And I've been represented at the Wall Group, gosh, now for I think 14, 15 years. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am super excited to host this really intimate and fun conversation around social media, specifically Instagram, and how to navigate around it. I am super excited to have my friend Christy Dash here to speak on that for us because I know I have a lot of personal questions and I know you guys all as well. So if we can bring Christy up, we would love to get started. What's up?
Hi, friend. This is
How are
very
you?
exciting.
I'm so happy to see you. Before we start, I want to just check in. How have you been through all of this? What's happening?
Oh, thanks for asking. I'm good. For those of you tuning in, I literally saw Daniel and I chatted for like 2 seconds before this, and I was glad because I freaked out. I was like, Daniel, friend. But like I said, I would probably end up doing this on the live too, but that's okay. No, but I'm good, all things considered. I'm usually based in New York City, and at the beginning of the pandemic, I actually moved to North Carolina to be closer
Oh,
to
you,
parents. Yeah.
wow.
So I've been on the beach in North Carolina. It could be a lot
Oh,
worse. I'm very grateful, but I still have my apartment in New York that I've been subletting, and I think I'm officially coming back in September. So
oh,
we'll see how it
nice.
goes. Yeah. I'm excited to get back to, things are coming back.
Things are coming back. I mean, I have to say, like, I just started traveling again for work, but I feel like there's a new energy in the
Yeah.
city, and
hmm
like everyone's feeling optimistic, everyone's getting vaccinated. I
Shot
moved
Girl
to
Summer. Have you heard that?
no,
It's happening. Not
that's
Hot Girl Summer, Shot Girl
amazing.
Summer. Yeah.
Oh my God. So for all of you guys tuning in, I've known Christy like 8 years when she was an assistant at Teen Vogue. And we go way back. And literally, I remember when you and Eva were just starting to get really on Instagram.
Aw.
And you know me, I've been just like, girl, I can't figure this out. I don't know what is going on. So for all of you guys out there who are in the same boat as I, all good. Christy's gonna really walk us through all of that. And if you guys have any questions, please drop them off in the chat because I'll go ahead and ask those for her. But can I just talk? How long have you been in Instagram now?
Yeah, and I can say just to piggyback off what you were just saying, I do just want to like be candid with this group that, as a former editor, I know a lot of the beauty community, makeup artists, hairstylists, nail artists, or also there's probably some fashion stylists also tuned in. A lot of you guys might not have had Instagram coming up through your career, and I know can seem daunting at times, and it's such a huge part of your brand now. So I'm genuinely excited to be talking about this today. Daniel, I'm excited for your questions, and know that like I get it because I came from that world and I know a lot of you and I've talked to a lot of you. So hopefully I can make it seem a little less stressful. But I've been on Instagram. So it's been about 3.5 years. Like I said, and as you said, I came up through the magazine world, and I was lucky enough that I was kind of progressing through my career as social media kind of was accelerating. As a writer and journalist, it ended up being almost just like an extension of a lot of the stories that I was telling in the magazines and on websites, etc. But then like you kind of hinted at, I assisted Eva Chen when she was at Lucky Magazine, and then I went to Allure, was a beauty editor there for a few years, a lot of odd jobs in between, and ended up consulting for a lot of brands and people in the social media space, which is really what led me to Instagram, where for the last 3.5 years, I've been a resource to the beauty community and fashion as well. So that's a little bit more about me and how I ended up here. I can't believe it's almost been 4 years.
I feel like it's been longer. It's so
I know.
wild.
Well, so much has changed. It's kind of weird, like
Right.
to think about how much has evolved, or the platforms evolved in the last 4 years. Like even when I started, I mean, they had kind of just launched stories, and like
Mm-hmm.
that's such a normal part of all of our Instagram strategies now. And now obviously there's everything good that we'll get into, like Reels and IGTV and whatnot. So,
which is a really great segue into my first question. And that is, okay, you create your Instagram account.
Yep.
What's the real deal with being verified?
I'm glad we answered this right at the top, because I know it's the thing that everyone wants to know, and we should just get it out of the way.
Yeah. Let's just knock this out, because I feel like so many people think that they're missed opportunities because they're not verified. So do you think it does make a difference? And if so, how?
Yeah. So for a little background, when Instagram first launched, even just the verification feature, that little blue check, it really was to eliminate confusion about, like, the example we always kind of half joke about was like when Instagram first became a thing, and like, there's like a million Justin Biebers. Like, how do you know which is the real Justin Bieber, to avoid bad actors or like scams or things like that? So it was more of like a protection thing. Obviously I work in this industry and I know that it's so much more than that today. But at the end of the day, so a couple things. One, we did launch the ability to apply for verification within the app. Only a couple years ago, I suppose. Like, before, you kind of did have to like know someone who knew someone, and it was like this weird thing. And that obviously is like problematic. So now it has democratized the process that you can go within the app in your settings and apply for verification. I will say that, just anecdotally speaking, press is like really a big thing that the team who's looking at those applications is looking at. I will also say that it tends to be like, profiles about you as a person, versus like, I know so many of you guys listening probably have amazing credits in magazines or photo shoots, or, inclusions in, or like quotes in stories, but it tends to, just purely anecdotally, it tends to be articles about you as a kind of a notable figure. So that will be my advice, and I would say keep working up to that. And I know a lot of you guys, even who work with the Wall group, are, they're trying to help you guys with that as well.
That's a really, really great clarification, because I feel like sometimes when you focus so much on one social media platform, you don't understand why and how other things affect it. So you also being, Googleable, so to speak, validates your craft and what you do to then justify why that check is so important.
Yeah. And one other thing to note, that I know the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, addressed about a year ago, like when everything was going on in the world with the Black Lives Matter movement, is that, we recognize that the idea of press, like, that there are systemic, issues like around like who press chooses to feature in the pages of their magazines or websites or whatnot. And so the team has been taking a hard look around like what constitutes this idea of press or notability per se. So just stay tuned for more updates on that. But that's just addressing that right from the get-go.
Amazing. Another question that I wanted to ask was, how would you say is the best way for an artist to kind of share what it is that they do? Is it so much about posting the work? Is it a balance of personal? Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's so many lines that blur because Instagram has so many facets to it. Because there's things that you can build on IG stories that you don't necessarily have to do in your grid. So what would you say is a well-rounded method of kind of sharing, who you are on on Instagram?
Yeah. So I think this also has changed a lot in the last few years. As I mentioned, like, I think the way people approach their Instagram strategy, or even if you don't have a strategy per se, just like what they're posting, has changed. And, I think a few years ago, and still today, your Instagram is your portfolio, regardless of whether you want it to be or not. Like, I know that brands and, you know, your potential clients are discovering you on Instagram. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious, Daniel, even for you, like how, if you get feedback about how many times people go to like your website or look at your book, like that's like not really as much of a thing anymore.
I know. I mean, it's really wild because there was a moment for me where like, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but like 3 years ago, before my friend's wedding, I had 17,000 followers on Instagram. I was active, but I wasn't like, I'm posting every, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
After that one occasion, in 24 hours, I jumped to 70,000 and I freaked out. I like panicked.
Because you're like, oh, I have to do this.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, I have to perform now. I have to keep this up. Like, I don't know what to do. And I remember having this conversation with Eva, and I was like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
And she was like, you just got to maintain who you are. And I feel like, we kind of get lost also because we're looking at our friends, we're looking at other people and what they're posting, and we see their numbers, and, all these things are happening. And I feel like when someone who's just starting out, like, what is the safest way to approach some sort of cadence on their social? Or how do you kind of tune out everything else and just kind of focus on, what you're trying to do on the platform? Am I making any sense?
Yes, and I'm really glad you said that, because I didn't really get the whole way around like thinking about, yes, it's your portfolio, but at the end of the day, I think when artists, I mean, again, like I know artists, I know you, I know people like you guys are all perfectionists, you're creatives, and you're like, oh God, like, I mean, you had it backwards, Daniel, where you like got this audience. Like most people, I mean, don't have that sort of visibility. Like they're all trying to get that through Instagram. So it was almost like a backwards experience for you. But at the end of the day, I think that it's the same in that everyone's just overthinking it. Genuinely, I think everyone's so stressed and just overthinking it. And it prohibits them from, one, being themselves, like you said, Eva mentioned to you, two, posting at all. Like, I think if you're expecting to get any sort of discovery or visibility or engagement or all the things, and you're posting like once a month, like that's not really realistic, and then I think the angle around sharing yourself in addition to your work, I think at the end of the day, that's a really personal decision. And I don't want to sit here and say like, post your selfies all day long. Like that doesn't work for everyone, and it shouldn't work for everyone. But I think what's really interesting now more than ever is that even in your work, I think people, well, not now more than ever, it's always been this way. Like Daniel, your clients hire you because they like you as a person and your artistry, of course. And maybe some care more about one or the other, but I think that now a lot of brands are looking for like personalities when it comes to their, who they choose to work with for their own Instagram content. And I just find that really interesting. And, if you are comfortable sharing just a little peek into your life, I do think it's beneficial, not only on, on that front, but at the end of the day, your followers are just fascinated with what it's like to be a makeup artist or a hairstylist or whoever you are. Like that's the reason why they're following you. It's not for your portfolio. Like the portfolio stuff is for, yes, like you have to do it. It's for your job. It's for your clients, et cetera, et cetera. But, I would think about like, who's the little boy in, I don't know, Iowa, who's like, wow, Daniel Martin is like a person who has this amazing job and is like everything I want to be when I grow up. Like, I want to know what it's like to be him, And so I think that that's something helpful to kind of reframe your thought process around like, okay, I'm only going to post super perfect, polished, beautiful, like photography versus like, okay, I'm going to give a well-rounded look at like what it means to be a makeup artist living in New York who happens to do really cool work also, but is also a really cool person. So again, I know that's maybe scary for people, and to which I would say just ease into it. Like you were asking about cadence and whatnot. I hate giving specific numbers for this because I think it stresses people out. I think, like I said, once a month is not going to cut it. That's like not good. No, I mean, Daniel, you have gone a lot.
Oh yeah, I've gotten much better.
You've gotten a lot better with that. I would say it's like I use the analogy that it's like working a muscle. Like if you can start somewhere, like maybe like if I told you once a day right now, you would like be like, absolutely not. That's not realistic for a lot of you guys listening. But like realistically, like a lot of influencers who do this full time, like they are posting once a day. And so in order to kind of almost like break through the noise of how much is going on the platform, like consistency is and frequency is important. But you know, maybe it's like once a week and then you on feed, but then you're starting to be a little more casual on stories. And as you practice, it does become more natural.
Right.
I do know, you know, like we launched and we're probably going to talk about this, but like we launched the new feature called Reels on Instagram over the last year. And like, that's a totally new space to kind of play in and experiment with and discover. So like, I know there's a lot of buckets now to kind of hit, like live stories. I don't know if you have any specific questions about that, but it's just about working up to being more consistent, really, is how I want to, in terms of cadence.
Right. So to that point, this is a really great segue into Instagram has kind of turned into its own omni channel, so to speak. And how would you navigate then someone like myself to, you know, where are they going to pivot their, you know, sharing? Is it going to be looking at Reels because there's more eyeballs looking at Reels, or would you say it's more on the grid? Like, where could someone kind of differentiate their time in dropping in those elements? Because you literally have stories, Reels, grid. There's 3 in 1. So is it 3 different pieces of content, or is it the same content, just 3 different variations of the same thing?
That's a great question, Daniel. And you saying it like that makes me realize why everyone's tired and overwhelmed. So let me dive in. I'll explain sort of how I think about differentiating each one. But I'll just be honest, like all of it.
Girl, we're friends. Keep all it real, spill the tea.
Yeah, you really do need, and again, I don't want to be unrealistic about what actually is something you can keep up with, but the reality is that all of them are important. And I think depending on how much you want to devote yourself to growing this platform, like they are all important. So, okay, here's my thought process through differentiating. So first of all, I'll start with Reels because it's the newest and I think people have the most questions about it. Reels, it's obviously shorter video, short form video, as we like to call it. It's dynamic, it's fun, it's entertaining. Like the thought process there with Reels, both, and you guys you probably have noticed this even just as a viewer yourself. You know, when we redesigned the Instagram app, oh gosh, how long has it? It's been at least a few months since we added the new Reels tab as well as the shopping tab. But that Reels tab is like prime real estate to be, pun not intended, I just realized, real estate. It's like a new window into all of these new accounts that you don't already follow. So it's just a really great way to be discovered by people who maybe like aren't already connected to you in some way, but have shown interest in you know, beauty or fashion or whatever world that you sit in. So Reels is really about like the fun, quick, dynamic videos. But the thing that I want to call out there that sounds kind of funny, I was talking to someone about this the other day and they were like, wow, that sounds really lazy, Christy, but it's actually the whole point of Reels, is that you can play into the trends that are happening on the platform with Reels. So when you see a really catchy edit or like transition, like you've probably seen a lot of those, like the easiest example is like, you know, the fashion creators who jump and then there's like magically a new item of clothing on, or like the beauty tutorials where you like put your hand up to the camera and then it's like, look, it's okay to essentially like, I mean, I don't know whether you want to say copy people or like be inspired by people, because that's the whole point of that surface within the app, is to play into what's trending on Instagram. So whether it's a song that's going viral, whether it's a challenge or some kind of edit format, like it's okay to hop on whatever those challenges are. And we actually see a lot of success with that. So hopefully that makes it almost a little less stressful to feel like you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time you're going to create a reel.
Right.
But that's sort of how we're thinking about reels, and is honestly like one of the best ways to be discovered, to help your account, you know, get in front of new followers or potential new followers right now. So that's reels. And yes, you can share reels to feed and stories, but we still think about them a little bit separately. So feed is still very much like for the highlights of both your life or your work. So kind of like when I'm talking about that portfolio thought process for artists, like still sharing those moments, but also, you know, I would say outside of just your work, but, you know, also your life. Stories is like, you should not be overthinking stories. It's just like anything that's going on in your day to day, like those in between moments that your followers who are really invested in you and your life or your career, like, are just dying to see what's going on behind the scenes. So don't overthink stories. And then I guess we have live and IGTV still. So live obviously grew so much during the pandemic. I'm sure you guys remember at the beginning of when everything was going on, like suddenly everyone was going live, and it really grew a lot over the last year, just as a way to connect directly with other creatives or your followers. So that's really how we think about it, is, you know, an intimate conversation, basically like we're having right now on Instagram, so that your followers can listen in real time. You've probably seen you can now go live with up to 4 people, which is something we just launched, just to enable or give more opportunities to have fuller conversations. And then the best perk about live is that while you're live with someone, it's kind of a great opportunity to get in front of that person's followers, because if they're not already following you, it's like combining audiences, joining forces to almost like cross-pollinate audiences, if that makes sense.
100%. That's interesting that you said that, because I did my first quad live.
Oh, good.
Yeah, with Elle Magazine a couple days ago, and I wound up getting like over 200 new followers from that.
Amazing.
And I didn't understand, because I was like, oh, are these bots? Like, but no, you're right. You wind up, bringing in a whole new audience when you do that, which I didn't realize. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, because you get notifications, like, you get the push notification if they have that turned on, that alerts you, and then it is sort of like just joining forces. So that's really interesting to know that that worked for you, Daniel. And then the last kind of portion is IGTV, which is really just like a deeper way to go, or a deeper form of like video content where you can go much longer. So I think that's obviously a lot bigger lift for some people, but I also do want to call out that we've seen almost like equal success with folks just like propping up their phone and like doing selfie videos, like vlog style. So it doesn't have to be a full production. I think people feel somewhat overwhelmed thinking about creating this big, production out of these longer form videos, but it really can be relatively lo-fi. And then lastly, you can share live to IGTV now. So those I would say can be combined, just to eliminate a little bit of work on your end.
That's amazing. Can you now then kind of categorize whether it's your lives into your highlights, so people can go and see what lives you've already done? Is that
so highlights are just for stories, stories content. We didn't really talk about, but it's just kind of a nice way to organize your stories. But with lives, right now, if the person who started the live, so unfortunately this currently only works, like Daniel, if you started a live with like another person or 3 other people, and you saved it to your IGTV at the end, it actually does, like, you can go into your little IGTV tab and it'll show ones that have it says live on it, like it was, or I think it says was.
Oh, okay.
So you can see which one was live and which one was just like a regular IGTV video. But right now, unfortunately, it's only for the broadcaster, and like we're trying to figure out ways to, for example, like if you had guests on, like how could they also,
Okay.
which there isn't something built in yet, but working on it.
Got it.
That makes sense?
Yeah, totally. 100%. And I think that you demystified a lot for a lot of these people who are out there, including me. Let's talk about algorithms.
Algorithms.
What is it? Is it important? Like when people are like, oh, you know, this is the algorithm's off, or what is an algorithm?
Amazing question. So the term algorithm, I just feel like people love to say, like, it sounds
very, they want to toss it around or make an excuse because, you know, nothing, their post isn't trending or whatever. Yeah. They're like, blame, you know, I'm just gonna blame it on the algorithm.
Right.
What the hell is an algorithm?
Okay, so the reality is, and I think there's a lot of myths around this, so thank you for asking this. I think, so the reality is that now today, I mean, I actually just noticed the other day on my own Instagram account, I follow over like 2,200 accounts because like every year I feel like I end up just following so many people. And obviously it's my job to do that. So I'm in sort of a odd situation, but like on average, like people are following hundreds of new accounts every year. And the reality is that all of that content that those people are posting is being like, it's in the feed, but you have to scroll for hours to find everything now because it's just, you know, there's a lot of people now and there's a lot of feed content or IGTV or reels, like there's just a lot. So I think there's a misconception that the algorithm is hiding posts or whatnot, and it's just, that's not true. It's how we refer to it. We actually internally don't even use the word algorithm. We call it feed ranking because it's just how the feed is ranked, and that's different for every single person depending on how they use Instagram. So, for example, if I like using me and you, like let's say you post something, and because I'm really engaged with you and I've shown the platform that I always like your photos or comment or I watch your stories or whatever it might be, all those different signals, you're going to show up higher on my feed than someone who doesn't engage with you. So, and you would just be further down, and it's because they must have other people that they're engaging with more. So that's why it's really important to be engaging both as a creator and as a follower, because if you're not being generous with your likes and comments, then you're never going to see that content that you actually like. So yeah, does that make sense?
That is 100%. No, it's so important because I feel like when people now are hearing about engagement, what's that engagement? You just explained why engagement is so important.
Yeah.
So could you kind of, I hate to backtrack, but I feel like this is such an incredible topic because coming from the brand end, they're looking at people who are a lot more engaging. So how does one become or, you know, show that high engagement when a brand is looking for somebody or?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like the age-old question of like, how do I get more followers? Like, how do I, how do I insert question? And like, there is no magic solution. Like, I think there's obviously, I can answer this question in a few different ways, but like at the end of the day, you have to post content that, also, I hate that I keep using the word content. I feel like that like stresses people out. Post like, things that you love, that you would, I mean, what would you engage with if you were on Instagram? Like, is it kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about the like super polished, perfect photography? Like, people actually aren't really going to Instagram for that right now. Like they're looking for videos. Like video posts tend to have high engagement because something about it, I think, just feels a little bit more tangible. And as you're scrolling
Mm-hmm.
through your account, it almost like jumps out at you, and it feels like it was created with Instagram in mind and not just like a repurposed image from,
Mm,
you know what I mean? So
right.
that's a
Right.
tip that hopefully is a little bit more tangible than me dancing around this question, but like creating things that feel like they're at home on Instagram versus like repurposing random
Right.
work.
Yeah, because I remember early on, like really early on, you said to me, you were like, because there was a moment when a lot of us artists were like stealing pictures from Wire Image or Getty Image. And you were like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
you need to see if you can take a picture, like a BTS picture. And that's going to bring the engagement much higher because it's something that you have that's different, that you can't. So it does make a difference to be able to kind of, have special
Yes.
esque.
Yes. And I think that's the perfect example, Daniel, because, I know not everyone listening to this today is involved in big events like award shows or Met Gala or whatever it is. But think about, around these big cultural moments, when you're on Instagram as a viewer yourself, like, would you be more interested in seeing, right, like the Getty image that you've already seen on e-news and like allure.com, or would you rather
Mhm.
see the exclusive behind the scenes iPhone selfie that only you can see through that artist's Instagram? So like I find
Right.
it really interesting. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but like Instagram to me is where I get most excited about consuming content around these cultural moments now versus like, sure, like you can watch the TV show and like that's great, but like how cool is it to get the actual behind the scenes look on like what's actually happening? So that's the perfect example. But at the end of the day too, like, and this is kind of, it just will sound like a non-answer and hopefully it doesn't frustrate people, but you just have to be yourself, because
No, it's
I think people
true.
are all trying to, like you hinted at this, like comparing yourself to other people in your field, or, wanting to do what the next person's doing. But, at the end of the day, I think brands are looking for people who have a unique perspective, and not just brands, but your followers as well. So yeah, that's how I would answer that question.
I mean, that's really interesting because I feel like we've hit a moment now where for the longest time, a lot of people were like, you need to create a brand. Like, what is your brand? I don't see your brand on your Instagram. Like,
How
brand,
do you
brand,
feel
brand.
about that? How do you
I
feel
fucking
about
hate it. I hate it because we're people. You know
You're
what I
like,
mean?
I'm
And we're
not a brand
artists.
person. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like now, because of everything that we've gone through politically, socially, we're
Yeah.
trying to we need to humanize again. And we're looking at Instagram because it is such a cultural moment and
Yeah.
piece of, whatever,
Yeah.
that it's people are looking at the person
Yeah.
now. And I
Yes.
feel like, I mean, there was a moment, and even now, like I'm not posting so much beauty stuff, but I've gotten a bit more social and political on it. And I've actually gotten more engagement and my numbers went up. And
I
that was,
love
and it's because I found, being authentic on this platform has resonated. So I think for, an artist out there who is trying to figure out where they live in this space, hearing it from you means a lot, that you can play both fields. You can, present what it is that you love and you do, but also there's people out there that really want to know who you are.
Thank you for saying that. And honestly, props to you for everything you've been doing the last like month or so. And that it makes me so happy to know that it is resonating with your followers. But that's not surprising to me because people really genuinely do care. And I think at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you. So everything that I'm saying today, I should have said this at the top of the conversation, like frankly, like a lot of our best practices and like advice that we give people, like that's in a time that maybe feels like, I mean, I hate to use the word normal because like what even is normal times anymore? But like you shouldn't feel pressure to do anything that doesn't feel authentic to you, like you just said. And I think you pivoting and realizing that, you know, you felt like it made more sense to talk about, you know, what's going on in the world versus like past work that you've like, I think people would feel like it's weird, you know? So I think you have to do what's right for you. And the reality is that there's no one correct way to handle that. But yeah, so I do just want to acknowledge that. And I completely agree. And I'm glad that you've seen that work.
And from a brand perspective, when brands come to you about, you know, looking at, you know, how to market through Instagram, like what are some things that they're asking for?
So I was thinking about this the other day, and like I have a couple interesting things that are hopefully helpful. So first of all, I think I know a lot of people listening might not necessarily be, like I mentioned earlier, digital natives or like full-time influencers or anything like that. But I think we can all learn a lot from the folks who have made like full careers out of like branded content and all of these different things. And I was having a conversation with someone a little while ago who was explaining her thought process. And I don't want to call her out in case she doesn't want me to say her name, but she's a really prominent fashion creator. And she essentially creates different franchises of like types of content that brands can almost see like, oh, okay, this person does this type of like IGTV beauty tutorial or this type of fun reel that is like a fashion franchise, or, you know, she goes live with a whatever, so and so. I'm kind of just riffing here, but she has these different buckets where it's almost demonstrating to brands what you can do for them, and then they can almost buy into that and say like, oh, we love what you're doing on this, like would you be able to do something similar for our brand? Because then at the end of the day, it feels more organic and kind of natural, and it fits both the aesthetic and even like their followers are used to consuming it tends to work really well. So I thought that was kind of brilliant, and I was like,
yeah, that's really
yeah, it takes some
really
thought,
smart.
but I think it's
really. But as long as that reflects who that person is and it's a genuine, you know, creation, I think that's incredible. And I think that's where, you know, us artists kind of get stuck because we have such an identity to what we do that you can share all of those facets of who you are to kind of really create your own story on your channel, so to speak.
Yeah, and again, a lot of those things can be like, if you're not comfortable sharing too much about like your personal life or anything like that, that's totally fine. Like you can still come up with different formats that are focused on your craft and your artistry, like in these different segments. So that's okay too. And then one other thing I wanted to mention on the brand side is that I think it's been really interesting, particularly in the beauty industry, to see. I mean, obviously, I know you work really closely with Tatcha, for example, and like for years, so many of these beauty brands have worked with ambassadors who, you know, tend to naturally like love their product, and that's usually how those things come about, through relationship building. But I think that is a really good tip for emerging artists out there, is to just like not be afraid to tag the brands that you love, engage with them, back to engagement, you know, comment on their post. Like I know so many people have formed relationships through Instagram, both with brands and other creatives. So I would definitely encourage that, because I think when you look at a lot of the artists who these brands are hiring to be their new ambassadors, like they are very Instagram savvy. And I think that's so fascinating because, you know, at one point those personalities were very much like a, you know, backstage staple, like talking to editors, like more behind the scenes, where now it's like people who are comfortable going live on Instagram or creating real brand on Instagram. And I think that's such an interesting opportunity for the next wave of artists. But also I think is just like so smart, especially for brands who know that, you know, brands are all looking for, they have the same questions that you're asking me, like brands are all trying to figure it out too. And when they don't have a, you know, if it's not like a celebrity founded brand and they're like, oh my God, do we have to ask like our social media manager to do lives for like they're all trying to figure it out too. So if you can do that for them and like show them that you're already almost like comfortable creating that type of video, especially, I think it's a really big room or big area for growth for careers.
That's amazing. That's such a great point, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand how and why that's so important. But you just explained it. Like the hashtagging is a way for people to find, like the brands to find these artists. Like, so that is a relevant thing to do nowadays, to hashtag and to tag. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, hashtags have been around for so long that maybe they don't get as much love as like all the new features, but yeah, hashtags are still really helpful. I mean, you don't need to do the whole, like, I think people sometimes have so many that it looks kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say is the best way to not
look like that? Yeah.
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 Is there like a trick? Because I know that some people will have, you know, their comment in their post and then like scroll down and then the hashtag is just as large as what they posted. So it's like, which is it?
I mean, listen, it doesn't necessarily hurt, but the thing is you should be using hashtags that actually are relevant to that post. So yeah, I know people have like random hashtags they just copy and paste into everything. But, you know, for example, like the easiest way to explain this that I tend to, maybe it's oversimplifying things a little bit, but like, let's say it's a beauty look and I don't know, it's like a smoky eye, like use the hashtag smoky eye instead of eyeshadow or makeup. I mean, and you can still do it, but it's like the more specific you can get, the better for you to actually have a chance of being discovered within that hashtag page versus going like really, really big. And I mean, there must be, I should know this, but it's probably ever changing, but there's got to be like thousands and thousands of people using that hashtag makeup every minute, you know? So
right.
Are you going to be able to break through there? Like probably not. So if you can get more specific, and also tap into like specific like niche communities or interests or like fan bases, like that's really great.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna throw this out because we're starting to wind down a bit, but if you guys have any questions, please put them into the chat. I have a few that just came in that I'm gonna ask you, Christy, if that's cool.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
We have one. Any tips for reposting photography from red carpets and protecting artists from lawsuits, copyright issues? How true is it that okay, so that's one question.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I was actually going to bring this up because you had mentioned, or when we brought up that example earlier about repurposing imagery, and I'm really glad that this was asked. So I am not a legal expert and I can't give legal advice, but what I can say is that it is illegal to post photography that you don't own. So I do just want to call out that I know, without going like too deep, you've probably heard of a lot of your peers who've dealt with lawsuits from photographers or photo agencies for posting images they don't own the rights to. And that is like an actual thing to be concerned about. I think at one point people just didn't know that that's technically not allowed. But yeah, I would say it's definitely better not only to be safe, like it's better to be safe than sorry, of course. And these lawsuits are like legit. But at the end of the day, like that's not even what's performing that well on Instagram, like we just talked about. So I would say it's like not worth it unless you have, you know, a relationship with certain photographers or a subscription to sites and whatnot to actually purchase the image. But otherwise, it is technically not legal and you shouldn't be doing it.
Okay, cool. Oh wow. Okay.
I know it's stressful.
No, but it's so important. It's so important. I'm so happy that was kind of like the first question. The second one. Oh, go ahead.
One thing is that, just so you know, like people aren't targeting. It's not just like the creatives, like it's even celebrities are dealing with this, like paparazzi images of their own self. So it's not just the community. This is something that's going on at large, just like photographers. And I mean, I know especially this group like has so much respect for photographers. So like if you put yourself in their shoes, like I'm sure you can understand. But yeah, this is a big thing, not just in this industry, but with paparazzi images for celebrities, as well as even like fan pages who just like repost paparazzi images of like one celebrity. So yeah, just calling out that no one's targeting you. We love you on Instagram.
Awesome. How true is it that micro influencers are more focused for brands, for collaboration in terms of engagement than larger influencers with a lot of subscribers? Is engagement more essential?
Interesting. So, I mean, anecdotally, just from like conversations with brands, like I think there's definitely been a shift in the last couple of years where like, at one point, I think there was the 20 big influencers that every brand was working with. And it was sort of a play more for like awareness, just to like get your brand out there to like millions of people. There definitely is much more opportunity these days for micro influencers, thanks to brands realizing that, smaller creators with smaller audiences still might have they might have higher engagement even than some of the big accounts. So I can't say like one's necessarily more important than the other. I think it depends on what the brand is looking to achieve with whatever they're working on, whether it's a product launch or a campaign or whatnot. But I think that should actually give smaller or like people who are just starting out hope that like you don't have to have millions of followers now to get these opportunities with brands. So yeah.
That's a really, really great point. Best apps for tracking Instagram analytics.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I use that Instagram. Like, I think the Instagram insights are pretty good. We are constantly like trying to build those out for people. And I do want to call out that, and this is sort of like a tactical thing, but something that's worth noting. You really should, if you're using your Instagram platform for, if you would consider yourself a creator or if you have your own brand or whatever it is, you should definitely be on a creator account or a business account.
Okay.
I would recommend creator account for people on this Zoom, whatever it's called today. I don't know what this platform is called, because you get access to insights on your account. So there's essentially a tab that shows up right on your app that allows you to see, like what posts perform the best, your growth, and like how many people followed you, how many people unfollowed you, which I know people get really stressed about. But there's a lot of information within the app now, but you only get it if you are on one of those professional accounts. So you just go into your settings. I think it's settings and then account, and then you scroll all the way down and allows you to change to a creator account. I would definitely do that to get
access. Amazing. So all you artists out there, creator accounts.
Yeah.
Creator account on Instagram. When is IG going to fully take likes away?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm curious what you thought about, or I mean, we've been testing.
I was so happy. Yeah,
so we've been testing it for a while. I know, again, I mentioned the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, who like made some comments about the verification process earlier, but he quite literally just has started talking about how, or just like acknowledging that like, we know this test has been going on for a really long time and is like probably annoying to some people some people see like, some people don't, and it's like not necessarily the most consistent. But as we've been testing, the main thing that we're learning is that some people like it and some people don't. And so the latest is that we're exploring almost like an option for people to
Oh,
if they want to hide their likes or not. So I don't have any formal like announcement on that today, but that is the latest, is that unfortunately we are still testing, but we're thinking about almost like a way to control if someone likes it, then they can keep it. If someone doesn't, then they can get rid of it.
gotcha. Um, any accounts you follow for inspiration?
Oh my God, so many. I can try to give some in this world, or people who I think are just like doing a really great job. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Erin Parsons, who's been killing it on Reels, like makeup artist who I feel like she's one of the first makeup
She's
artists.
so talented. She's amazing.
Reels. Yeah, so talented. I love her Reels. Same with Katie Jane Hughes, who I know you know. Like, just she's Instagram queen. Like, I love everything that she does. Otherwise, well, it's kind of all what I was mentioning earlier about brands who are utilizing like their ambassadors in really cool ways. Like I noticed Rare Beauty, I'm gonna forget her name. But they just started working with an up and coming makeup artist to be sort of like their forward facing personality, which is fascinating. Same with like Fenty and Priscilla Ono. Like I just like am so fascinated by that relationship between these big brands and makeup artists who have been doing an amazing job on Instagram. That really inspires me. But I also just love like, and this sounds kind of funny, but I just love people who are doing like weird things that like I would never even think to do. Like, and that's the kind of going back to like be yourself and like don't follow too much of a playbook, or else I think it's hard to kind of separate yourself. So like, I don't know, it's like weird meme accounts where you're like, what is this? Or like brands that are just doing really cool things, like the brand Starface, launched by former beauty editor Julie Schott, that's like cute little pimple patches in the shapes of stars.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And like you go on their Instagram account and it just feels so different, and it's so refreshing that it, I think right now when you go on various brands accounts, like it just kind of all looks the same. And I just encourage people to step out, branch out, and have your own unique voice.
Amazing. Awesome. Do hashtags and stories actually increase engagement or community outreach?
Hashtags and stories. I feel like hashtags and stories are not as big of a priority, to be honest. It doesn't hurt. So if you can, like even just like small, I know people sometimes like hide them on the side or like add them or whatever it is. Like it doesn't hurt, but I would say stories isn't necessarily the place for, like I don't think a lot of people are necessarily discovering your account through stories. Like I think Reels and feed and even live with other people are like better forms of discovery.
Gotcha. That's a really great answer. All right. So our last question, for both of you, how do you balance work life and personal life? Not necessarily love life, but for someone that's on the road a lot, how do you balance work life?
Oh my gosh. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Gosh, I feel like I'm just now getting back into work life, so to speak. Because up until the pandemic, I realized that I was on a plane 3 times a month for 3 years straight. And the pandemic really made me kind of reset and look at things differently. So if anything, it brought me and my partner closer. I got to spend more time with my cat, which is amazing. Yeah. But, as we move back into work again, I feel like you kind of have to really understand your purpose and what's truly going to make you happy nowadays. Because, we've all experienced this pandemic the same. And, we all need to kind of reevaluate what it is that's, brings us joy and happiness in our lives and our work. So, I know that I have so much love for Instagram. Granted, it drives me crazy sometimes, but I literally love sitting in bed and scrolling through Dodo right before I go to sleep to look at all those fun animal videos.
It's your life. I'm like, yeah, make me laugh, please.
Right. Exactly.
Do you think, Daniel, if you don't mind me asking, like, hopefully this isn't too personal, but I'm curious, you know, obviously a lot of people don't have the luxury of like saying no to jobs, but like, I'm curious from this year, like, I do worry about so many of my artist friends who have this moment to like take a minute and breathe. And obviously people are just craving like that to get back to their art. But also, I mean, maybe people like it's going to be hard to snap back into it. I know for me, it'll be hard to go back to an office, and like, luckily at Instagram, we have a lot of flexibility around like our work settings, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But like, do you feel like that will change how you accept jobs and different opportunities?
I mean, I'm really, really fortunate that I was able to have this gig with Tatcha right before the pandemic started. And I know that like a lot of people don't have that luxury, but also to the flip side to all of this is it enabled us to really see and really kind of have us really understand what our creativity is. And you know, some people are even creating more, or they're trying out new things outside of what they already did. And I think for the longest time we were so focused on what we did that we didn't allow ourselves that opportunity. And I think if anything, people are understanding that, you know, the value of time has changed, and they're going to focus in on the, you know, those things that made them happy. And yeah, we need to pay our rent and we need to make that dollar, but there's going to be other ways now to do that, because we weren't so, you know, pigeonholed on just what was in front of us and what we did. That makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone's hustling differently now, but it's all good because we're creatives and we figure that shit out.
That's so interesting. And yeah, I mean, I feel pretty much the same. Like I mentioned, I moved to like the North Carolina coast this year. It's like very different. I never would have anticipated that I'd leave New York. Like, I've lived there for the last 10 years. My community's all there. I mean, frankly, a lot of people were gone, and I think I had to do what felt right for me, closer to family and work-life balance. Like, yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's like, I feel like there really is no balance. You just have to set boundaries for yourself. And I think I've learned that this year more than ever, is just like, you know, working from home, it all can like blend, which I don't know how many people on this call have like normal, again, there's that word normal, but like jobs where you're like sitting at a computer working or in an office, but it all blends when you're at home. And you just have to learn to shut the computer screen and like go live your life. I feel like I've actually been able to do that more because, you know, in New York, it's like you're close with all your coworkers. You go out for drinks after work. It ends up being like 10 o'clock and you're like, oh my God, like I've not done anything but like talk to my coworkers and like talk about work. So yeah, it's just, I think about setting boundaries, knowing when to say no, which I know not everyone has the privilege to be able to do, but knowing like it's okay to say no if you don't have the mental capacity
100%.
to keep moving and running and, you know, hustling.
Absolutely. Well, Christy, I can't thank you enough for your time, honey. And it's so good to see you. And I'm so happy that you're home with your family and doing well. And when you're back into the city in September, we have to catch up.
Yes, please. This was so fun. Thank you so much for having me. And seriously, Daniel, like, thank you for just like everything you've been so outspoken on in the last month or so with everything going on with the PI movement and just like your bow down.
Stop.
You're my favorite. You're my favorite.
Oh, I love you. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was really informative for you as it was for me. And happy Thursday. Happy Wednesday. What day is it today? See, I don't even know. Wednesday. Happy Wednesday.
Couple more days.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.